Hello, and welcome to our daily sketching routine. It is Saturday, December 4th, 2025. Today's topic, I'm going to call it Sharpie Sketching because I'm going to be using just a regular black Sharpie marker, which I don't really sketch with. There's several other things I wanted to talk about and also demo, but before we get to that, welcome back if you're returning, and welcome if you are new to my channel. I sketch and post every day, and I use timers to stay focused and to build a habit. So I'm going to start a 10-minute timer, and this will probably be more than one video, but just to get started. So a few things. I'm going to just draw from imagination, and yeah, I'm just going to use this. I'm not really going to think too much about what I'm going to draw and also like how I'm going to do it. I want the video to be informative for different people, but also I want it to be interesting for me, so I'm approaching it in this way, sort of like intuitively. So to begin with, I know some people kind of want to know how to draw like the basics. So it could be, for example, so this is just a blank page, and I want to turn it into a composition or an illustration. So just to kind of begin with, it helps to establish some sort of composition, in this case like some kind of ground. So this is basic stuff, kind of going into like intermediate stuff. So if you're wondering, well, what makes it basic, what makes it intermediate, probably the composition makes it kind of intermediate, meaning just how to come up with a composition. So I have no idea. The main idea I had was I wanted to use this marker. So now that I did something like this, so like I said, I might do more than one video depending on how this ends up, because I don't know. The next thing might be figure drawing. So let's just create a figure right here. Put this on camera. So this, to begin with, this is composition, and I'm going to use the whole page. So I talk a lot about doing thumbnails, and this isn't really a thumbnail, but you could call it like a layout. So there's things like layout thumbnails, for example, but this is just a layout. So first is just kind of establishing composition, which is kind of like design basically. And the horizon sort of helps to determine, for example, I'm just going to place some kind of figure right here. Not that I really have an idea or like a narrative other than whatever the composition, whatever the layout sort of gives me. So for example, since I am using a marker and I'm just drawing without like an underdrawing or anything, I do want to think a little bit about how I do like the initial sketch. I mean, I could be pretty scribbly with it, but then usually if I do that, then I would want to trace over it or scan it in or something like that. But I'm going to be a little bit more deliberate. So just to stick with like the figure drawing stuff. So for example, if you're a beginner at this, you're probably not going to be able to compose like a really good composition if you're still struggling with like how to draw the figure, for example. So I'm just going to draw somebody here, and everything tends to go towards world building for me. So I'm going to put the head right here, kind of on this horizon, and that's because of the focal point. That'll make it more of a focal and just do like a gesture. We can have him or her, it, the figure. Yeah, I'm gonna keep it generic enough to where I'm not even sure of what kind of character. I'm just going off of like the layout. Part of it, there's perspective involved here, which I won't get too much into. So I think at every stage, if you can kind of see where you're at, it helps. Like if you can see like if it's working or not. So this is going to be figure drawing right here. And then over here, just to keep it like figure drawing, I could have another face, kind of like right here. And could be almost profile. Kind of like that. And so the way that works is I'm just using the horizon to kind of, I mean, they're not on even ground, like they're on some kind of rocks here. But like the perspective, so it makes them look like they're kind of the same size because of this. So yeah, I wanted to go over, for beginners, just the figure drawing aspect of it. For, I guess, a more intermediate would be how to compose something, and I guess for more of the advanced, if you will, is the kind of what I'm doing, where I really had no idea what I was going to sketch. And that's kind of the, I mean, you kind of get into a situation where you can draw anything, and so it's you kind of have to think about, that's why I'm using a Sharpie. You kind of have to find ways of challenging yourself and sort of just seeing like what ideas you can come up with. So here's the basic composition. Some other things could be kind of figuring out, like, see, because I'm using a Sharpie, so I'm not really gonna, actually I could still have some clouds and stuff. So here's the horizon. So I guess I'm gonna go like this. I don't want to really do the underside of the cloud because I think this it'll be too dark for the clouds. Or maybe not. Just go like this. Now to kind of make up for the that's 10 minutes. I'll start another one. Yeah, this will take more than one. I'll just develop this one. I just feel like it's better because these are basically deep dives. I mean, these videos don't always have to be like that, but one, it's not good to rush. There's a difference between being quick, because I feel like I did this pretty quickly, but don't rush. The other marker I would use is like this black like paint marker, but I'm not going to do that until I map it out a little bit more. So this is composition, and from imagination, I'm not looking at anything. I really didn't even have an idea. I mainly wanted to sketch with a Sharpie, and there's some figure drawing. There's going to be like this kind of a portrait here, and then like a full body almost right here. I guess there'll be some kind of architecture. And for stuff like this, which I don't know off the top of my head, but like I can make up some things, but like my rule of thumb, like which is the 80-20 rule, is I'll just kind of like do 80% as much as I can. And you can kind of break it up into like little parts. So for example, I can do 80% of this. So that's what I'll do for probably the rest of this. So for example, if I get this far, I can kind of think about like the lighting. So just kind of glancing at it. And so part of this is going to come from what I already have just sketched. Like I did that sort of intuitively. So I'm just going to go off of that. So for example, I can start to shade. So you can kind of call this the sketch right here. And sort of using figure drawing. I'm just going to use figure drawing because I don't know like what the costume is. So I'm just going to use figure drawing, meaning the forms of the figure, and be kind of light about it as far as using the Sharpie, but I will go in with like this one and it'll make the Sharpie look less like obvious. But for now, I'm just kind of establishing a little bit more of the lighting, because this will also help to kind of give ideas, but be kind of light about it. Now, if I had like a thumbnail to kind of go off of, or if I'm just using reference or something, then I might be a little bit more precise, but I'm sort of looking for ideas here. So now we're moving into, so again, just to kind of have the video be kind of useful for different people. It can also just be a demonstration. Like that can be interesting too. For me, it's really about the practice, like the daily sketching practice. So shading the figure, so I'll do that. We'll go into like the detailing and everything. Would be kind of a beginner thing to learn how to shade and render. For a little bit beyond that would be like values, how to figure out, for example, in a landscape or like the background, just these are decisions, since there's no reference, and I feel like artistically speaking, you should be able to just come up with lighting, but of course do studies to kind of understand how light works. Now you could be pretty basic about it. You could say, well, everything on this side would just be dark because if we say that the light's coming from over there, but the way light works is a little bit more complex than that. But that's like a starting point. I mean is, for example, this face could be like in shadow, and that's just for dramatic purposes. Like whatever looks interesting. Like there's no like actual, because it's the picture, it's the scene that's causing that. And yeah, keep it loose. I would keep it pretty loose, especially if you're using something kind of bold like a Sharpie. And then the other thing could be to separate the figures from like so this would be like the foreground, and then the middle ground right here. To separate it, I might not use as much shading, but then to separate the middle from the background, which it would be like back here, you could have the lines be a little bit more bold. And then I would just kind of leave it, because that's the layout. Because then there's also, you can make the shadows more obvious. So that's part of like kind of intermediate planning of the composition, and then like the value. Now, although that's like the horizon, it could become something else. I'm just gonna kind of throw in a little bit more. So notice how when I did that, it dropped. Like the horizon doesn't have to like be a line. It's just that the eye level is right here. And for like back here, you can add another figure. As a matter of fact, you can have like someone else right here. So it looks like the clouds are kind of, I don't know, the wind is sort of going in different directions. So I'm just going to make up something. So because that's like the horizon and this figure is like back here, I'm going to make them pretty small. I just kind of guessed right here. If this were like, if it looked weird, I would do something else. And it may change into something else. I don't know. Also, since I did that, since I kind of put a person right here, I can kind of guess at the scale of the building. If it's way back there, maybe like kind of like this. But I'm going to look up some reference for, I can kind of put some, that'll make it look a lot bigger. So I kind of like simple buildings that look sort of monolithic. So yeah, just keep it pretty simple. So in a way, I'm approaching this like a really big thumbnail, but it's a layout. And then if you were to do like thumbnails, it would be layout thumbnails. But my thing is, if I am going to do a layout, then I'm going to keep it pretty loose, just because I don't like to redraw stuff. But like in this case, I'm going to actually detail this actual layout. So I'm keeping it especially kind of loose on purpose, because I'm going to add detail. But just wanted to get it started. But I'm going to stick with the Sharpie, so that's another 10 minutes. I'm going to stick with this, then go in with this. But like, I'm not going to do it right now, because there needs to be more of a layout, because as soon as I put this, I can't erase it. So yeah. but it's a pretty cool composition. Like it could work. I feel like if this were like a layout, this would be like 80% of it. And then the 20% would be maybe just browsing around to get ideas, like just for random things. It could be the sky or just whatever, but then kind of keep doing the layout, like the sort of map out like different things. And in a way, I mean, it'll just be like an illustration and world building. But yeah, we'll do more than one video. That'll be it for this one. I want to thank you for joining me for today's daily sketching routine. And if you like these videos, please support the channel. I appreciate it. And until next time, keep on sketching.